Hello?
Hello, doomerpolitics. Should I call you Doomer or Mr. Politics? What do you prefer?
Mr. Politics. Mr. Politics sounds nice. I
Okay,
don't care.
okay, that's cool then. We'll go with Doomer, I guess. So Doomer, welcome to my stream. Obviously, we actually have had a previous interaction, I believe, over the Vadim stuff before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I was speaking to Vadim, you were kind of sending me all these tweets to like demonstrate some stuff that you said, and then I noted that you actually did make a video about it in the end, which I think I watched a little while ago. Wait,
Yeah, that
hang
was
on.
actually I had already had the video out at that point, I think. It
Right.
was either I'd either already had it out or it was like the next day. Something like that. It was like in the immediate proximity. But I had another channel and it uh so I got a warning for uploading a meme video. I had like it's a stupid story, but I had to make a new channel. So that's why
Right.
the release date's today. That's an old video.
Yeah, because I remember I watched it at the time and I saw 2 days, but that makes perfect sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, aside from anything else, any disagreements we got, anything we're going to get into, I just wanted to say congratulations on your video. It seems like it's doing very well. 70,000 views, if that's correct, or is it more now?
It was 75 the last time I looked, but I
Wow.
don't know exactly. Some views.
Fantastic. How do you feel about how it's done?
Oh man. I mean, I gotta be honest. It doesn't. I don't know. It feels weird. It just feels weird. I don't know how to describe it. It's a very strange experience.
Yeah, sure. Because I think you've kind of been catapulted into the center of discourse, and a lot of people are obviously talking about you. How are you kind of dealing with all the attention you're getting?
Uh, mostly poorly. So yeah, there's this thing I always say. There's like a really big difference between knowing something like intellectually and then actually like feeling it. And I'd always said like, people feel negative criticism so much more strongly than positive criticism, right?
Yeah.
The reaction to the video has been almost unanimously good. Like objectively, almost everyone's just saying either it's very good or it's mostly good, but you have problems. And those are both pretty good reviews. But then like every 1 in 10 people will like give a criticism, and that really is it's very difficult to focus on anything but that. So I understand that now. I can totally understand why you see content creators that are really really big, people making million view videos, getting salty over some comment. I get it now. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. You do tend to focus and your eyes are drawn to the people that are being shitty to you rather than the ones that are saying, you're fucking amazing, so yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Well, I've got like a few things just I wanted to talk to you about my thoughts on the video we could get into.
Sure.
So let's just get started, I guess. So there's two, before we get into the content specifically of the video, there's two main critiques I guess I wanted to kind of levy. So I'll just lay it out, and then if you can respond and say whatever you like in response, I guess. So the title of the video is Vaush Is Unironically Evil.
Yeah.
So the point I would make about that is it seems like an extremely provocative title. Totally appreciate provocative titles are necessary for YouTube videos. My issue, I guess, is from what I've heard you when you've heard you speak about this, you don't really seem particularly willing to admit that element of it, that it's kind of like more of a clickbait title, I
Okay.
guess.
So we kind of got into this with Sunday a little bit. There isn't one motivation for doing something. I have a lot of different motivations for choosing that title.
Okay.
So I'm not going to sit here and say that there's okay. And again, clickbait is okay, usually clickbait refers to something that's very misleading. I don't think my title is misleading. I think it's provocative, right? So
Okay.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that the obviously I wanted a provocative title and it seems to have worked, right? I'm not gonna sit here and skirt around that. That's obviously part of it. But
Okay.
the reason that I hedge a little bit on the evil thing is because um, everyone has their own moral intuitions. Everyone has their own moral system. A lot of people don't even believe evil exists, right? So it's an impossible task to convince a random person that someone's evil. They might not believe in evil. They might have a completely different conception of it. So the way that I would put it is, this is my argument for why I think he is evil, right?
Okay.
And I think along those lines is completely justified. Again, if people want to see that as being hyperbolic or cringe or whatever, I mean, I that's fine. It's not. I'm not going to claim it's a perfect title, right?
Sure.
But like, if people were to criticize that, I would just start going through the worst things in the video in reverse order, and I would just try to figure out where is like how many of these things do you consider evil? Because like the like telling everybody to harass the cop stuff, everyone seems to agree on that. The like I'm willing to kill anyone who disagrees with me. Everyone seems to agree on that, right? And we could just go down the list. So it's like, exactly what threshold of material would need to qualify as evil for you, right? So I'm not, I don't back off of it entirely. It's just a bit more nuanced than, it is a provocative title. I'm not gonna,
Sure,
um,
that's fair. I think we can meet there. It's provocative as long as you're happy to admit that. I'm cool with that.
yeah, of
You
course.
know, I guess an interesting thing for me then is like because I'm not like a philosophizer type person. I've got I guess like some thoughts about the term evil and what it really means, and it isn't something that you can really truly define. I don't think and for me, like I would look to people like say Hitler, for example. I'd comfortably say even colloquially, well, yeah, Hitler was evil, regardless of my personal position on whether evil truly exists, right? As a colloquial thing. I guess what I'm interested to understand, like, what in your mind is evil? Like, what is your definition or?
Okay, sure. So I hope you don't mind. I'm going to expand that a little bit to address one of the most common criticisms in your chat. So a lot of people said, because I don't like talking about people's motivations, and a lot of people, like I think like 10 people, basically said, how could you possibly say somebody was evil without impugning their motivation, right?
Mhm.
And this is actually like trivially possible in all three of the major normative systems. So if you're a consequentialist, all you care about are outcomes. You can't know exactly what someone intends or what their expected outcomes are. It's just being judged ultimately by what actually happens. So if you're a consequentialist, then you would just say someone's evil if they do evil things. It's that straightforwardly simple. If you're a deontologist, most of them are threshold deontologists. The idea is basically that there are moral rules. And so the question would be, well, you're evil if you break a certain number of moral rules, right? And if you were looking at it from that perspective, almost every one of my segments would be something approximating, that kind of thing. Certainly, several of them are very, very clear things that would be associated with being evil, right? And then the last system would be virtue ethics, which is basically the idea that an evil person would be a person profoundly lacking virtue, and you can make exactly the same argument. None of these require intention at all, right? So it depends on your system. Personally, I'm more of a threshold deontologist, so I think that's a long conversation, um, but when I think about the rules that should dictate the conduct of somebody doing the kind of things that Vaush is doing, being a content creator and an influencer and talking to people and doing stuff like this, he has done so many things that would violate things that I consider to just be fucking hard rules, right? Um, in the video, I don't very often accuse him of lying with malicious intent. I think I only recall doing it once. I may have done it more than once. I don't remember exactly. But I do think that he lies knowingly a good deal, right? So that would be like an example of a moral rule that he violates. Um, Something that wasn't made completely clear in the stochastic terrorism section is that the reason I'm making that argument is because all of the presuppositions that people would question are things that Vaush affirms, right? So Vaush argues that stochastic terrorism is a real thing. That's the biggest hurdle to get over in selling someone on that section. Vaush affirms that, right? So if Vaush affirms the existence of stochastic terrorism and he acknowledges this is a real thing and it's important, and he talks about caring about platforming and responsible conduct, if these are his positions, and then he says the things that he says about police or conservatives, again, you're very clearly violating some fucking moral rules for me, dog. Right? Like that a lot of that stuff is mega, mega, mega yikes, right? Yeah, I mean, I could just most of the sections would could have a moral rule, right? So like bad faith could, it could be a moral rule that you should be good faith. Well, I wouldn't say that you're evil if you violate that, but that is one of the contributing factors. Is one of the things that he does that it's wrong, right?
Sure. Okay, that's interesting because I think one issue I guess people would have is that they would see calling someone evil as a extremely severe moral condemnation, and if you think about the kinds of people that are generally referred to as evil, like Hitler, for example, I mean, he committed suicide, but other people in the Nazi regime were executed, right? So
Yeah. So
I
I don't,
think, yeah,
yeah. Okay. So let's clear some stuff up. I don't think Vosh deserves to be killed. I don't think Vosh is Hitler. Okay. Um, it, if you're if you're only putting evil at the level of like Hitler, Stalin, fucking Osama bin Laden or whatever, Vosh is clearly not that. Okay. Um, but if you're comparing him to other people in the content creation space or the political space or whatever, he does some stuff that nobody else does. Some really, really, really yikesy stuff. And then when you combine that with the fact that he has a very big platform and a considerable influence, someone could make the argument nobody in online politics really has that big of an influence, right? And that would be a fair thing to argue. That if you want to believe that, that's fine. I'm perfectly happy to accept that someone would want to have that position. But you would still have to accept of the people that are talking about this, he's probably the worst in terms of doing these sorts of things. So like one thing that has been really annoying is that people have been saying that there's this meme. Um, well, anyone who streams, you could just always troll through their clips and make this video. I strongly disagree with. I couldn't make this video about anyone else. I don't think. I mean, do you think if I strolled through all of your streams, I could find you saying the kind of things that I show him saying in this video, right? Like, I don't think so. I don't take you for being
Well,
that kind of a person.
I mean, no, like certainly not like the generalities about conservatives or police. You know, I try not to go down that route with it. One thing I would say, and I don't want to skip ahead because this is something I want to talk about a bit later in the kind of context of all the segments, but I think discerning between jokes and true statements is something we can maybe get into a little bit as well.
Sure.
Because that's interesting to talk about. Okay, well, fair enough. Like I say, so yeah, that makes it a bit clear for me. So you're not saying Vaush is literally Hitler. You're just saying that based on your
No.
like philosophical concepts and ideas, you would class him as that, but that is a specific thing based on your moral rule set or whatever, right? Is that more or less it?
Yeah, and like I'll acknowledge that the title is okay. The title is simultaneously very effective and very flawed. It's very effective because the word evil is provocative and because everyone has their own ideas. And so if you wanted to look at it as being misleading insofar as when people look at it, there is a good chance they are going to get an idea that isn't exactly what I mean. I think that's a perfectly fair critique. If
Okay.
you wanted to say the title was misleading in that way, I'm not going to argue that. I think that's completely reasonable. One thing I tried to make it clear in the outro that what I was like, I said something to the effect of like, I think I've explained my position or something to that effect. I was trying to say that like this is why I think this, but I didn't make it clear enough. So um, I'll just take the criticism. I mean, the title's not perfect, and if someone were to look at the title and be misled, yeah, the blame for that falls on me. I'll take that.
Okay, there's actually one aspect to this which I'm kind of going to ask a few times, but basically, you know, you've got the what is it, the 40-40-20 rule, right? So there's be 40% of people that are going to agree with you because they hate Vaush. The other 40% will be hard on Vaush's side, so they're going to not agree with you, and then there's going to be 20% that are potentially going to be able to be moved. You know, so we'll work on that for simplicity's sake. But what I want to ask
Sure.
about a few of these things is, do you think that by titling the video "Vaush Is Unironically Evil," you've potentially alienated or lost a portion of that 20%?
Okay. I can't really know in
Mm,
terms of there's a sense in which I can't know. So there's two different ways you can take the question. By alienated, if you mean watch the video, then demonstrably not. Um, the video currently has a 30% click through rate, which is unbelievable. I
that
didn't
is,
even
yeah.
know it was possible to have a click through rate that high. So a lot of people have been telling me, dude, you got to change the title, you got to change the thumbnail. There's no fucking way I'm changing the title or the thumbnail.
Yeah,
Like
fair,
it
fair
is
enough, yeah.
incredibly effective. So insofar as you want people to see your video, it's very much working there. If you're saying, are you losing people by giving people a misleading impression and then that puts them against you and that leads them to not take your side? I'm sure there's some number there. I don't think it's 20%. Um,
Sure, it's gonna be a
but
portion of the
it's hard.
20%, right? But
Yeah,
well,
it's hard for me to imagine. I mean, I don't know exactly, but yeah, I mean, there's got to be some number, right?
because the interesting thing for me would be, let's say you did a different video title, you might capture more of the people that are watching because it's a bit more, you know, upfront, I guess, or however you want to call it. But then if as many people don't watch, the total number of people you're bringing to your side are less. So it's kind of like an interesting calculation you'd have to do to really figure it out. But it's the only reason
Yeah,
I ask it. Right, sorry, go on.
sorry, just to be really clear, a lot of these things weren't particularly well thought out. Like if you look at that thumbnail and you think I sat there min maxing that shit for like 3 days, like you're lying to yourself, dog. That's a solid 1 hour thumbnail. It's not. I was in a Discord with my friends and I just kept posting it and they kept telling me to make it stupider and I just kept like the horses were not my idea. My friends were just like put horses in it and I was just like this was so stupid. And then I put it in. I was like whatever, it's funny. Just fucking leave it, whatever.
And
And by the way,
is
you're right
that
that
yeah?
those
Sorry,
are
go on.
Destiny's eyes. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I wonder.
yeah.
Yeah, do people look at that and go, "It's just a Destiny simp"? Fuck that guy. I don't know. Maybe who knows? But I don't know. I like a good meme, and I thought it was quite funny. So there we go.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Um,
I like my shit posting, and it is a very shit posting thumbnail. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's fair enough. The next thing I wanted to get into is, now this has obviously caused a lot of controversy, and I hope you understand, like, I'm not the screeching SJW who thinks you're a Nazi or 4chan up, okay? But I do want to just address this because I think this is worth talking about. So,
Sure.
in the replies, obviously we can see here, there's a few of the figureheads, the stars of the rightoid YouTube scene, Count Dankula.
Yeah, I get the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, so you
And
hearted
I
the
like their
comments.
comments.
Yeah, tell me
Yeah.
more. What was the reason for that?
So I will tell you every single thing that happened, right?
Yep.
Okay, so the video came out, and then someone left some rambling, crazy reply. It's the kind of thing where you would look at it and you immediately know that this is just nuts, right? It's some
Yeah.
crazy reply. One of my friends said, "Dude, look at this crazy reply." And so I replied to it totally, which is like the most sarcastic, stupid thing. And then when Vaush looked at the video, the first thing he did was went to the comments and went to that comment and said, "Oh, he agrees with this guy," and just took it completely seriously.
Right.
Um, and I just find that to be like the most ridiculous, stupid bullshit. Like how like it was like a 4 or 5 paragraph post, and I just responded totally, and it's like they're taking it completely seriously. Um, I really hate this idea a lot of people have that, like, if you have any association with anyone that anyone could possibly think is a nefarious person for any reason, that makes you a bad person. I hate that mindset. And part of the reason that I did this is I don't like those people. I don't want them watching my videos. If you want to think I'm a Nazi because I fucking liked Sargon's fucking comment, then I want you to think that. I don't want you to watch my videos. I want you to go away. Like, this mindset to me is incredibly stupid. I really don't like these people. And I did it purposefully to piss them off. That was the reason.
Okay.
Because it's a dumb thing to be upset about. It's just a stupid thing to be upset about.
Sure. So, I certainly agree that people took it too far, and, like, calling you a Nazi is excessive. I do get a little bit of a hint from you, though. It's a bit like, oh, I'm going to trigger the libs. Like, it's that kind of vibe I'm getting. And I guess my question would be, putting aside the people that went extreme with their critique and were acting like you were the next coming of Hitler because you liked a YouTube comment from Sargon of Akkad, do you think that potentially you lost people because of this action? And maybe...
Yeah, that was the point. I wanted to lose people.
Okay. Well, let me
That
just...
was the point.
Okay, sure. But my point is, my concern is you're losing more people than you would really want to, okay? Because, for example, there's this person here. This is one example I saw. Presumably there's more. This person, Agent 12 Toes, Anna on Twitter says, okay, so I thought doomerpolitics video had some good criticism that everyone could learn from with a lot of effort and very well cited sources, but not digging this part. And it's a screenshot of all the liked comments.
Here's my response to that. If you watch a video like this and you think that it's really well done and you like the arguments, you think it's thorough, and then you change your mind on that because I liked Sargon's tweet or like reply, that's ridiculous. It's
But
ridiculous.
I'm not sure this person changed their mind. I think they still think the critiques were good, but I think that there might just be a question mark over you and your motives if you're doing this.
That's fine. Again, I'm like 70-30 right now, not going to make another video.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
I'm not doing this to like min max. I don't have a Patreon. I didn't tell people to like or subscribe. I didn't do any of the normal, like, I'm trying to make money shit. It's not my goal. Okay. It's pretty fucking obvious if you ask me. That is not my goal. And it's like, I'm not trying to min max have everybody, right? Like,
Okay.
I don't like this perspective people have. I think it's ridiculous. This idea that, like, because this is one of the main things people are talking about Dankula. It's like, oh, but he has bad friends. So, like, I again, part of the point of the dehumanization section is that we shouldn't just hate everyone who disagrees with us. Like, it shouldn't be a crime to have a conservative friend. It's ridiculous.
Sure. I mean,
And I'm not friends with these people. I don't know. I've never talked to any of them.
No, of course. So how I'd respond to that is, of course, having conservative friends is fine. I think there's a difference, though, between having a conservative friend and someone like Lauren Chen. But by the same token, I do accept that you're literally just liking a YouTube comment, and I would read into that what it is. My concern, I guess, is that maybe you're losing people who generally like the critique, but have got question marks about your motives because of that. It seems like your response to me is, I don't really care, and I don't mind if I lose them. Is that more or less it?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's beyond that. I intentionally want to lose them. I don't
Right.
like people that think this way. I think it's completely ridiculous. And by the way, I don't even know who Lauren Chen is.
Right. Okay.
Someone had to tell me. I hear that she has bad takes on immigration. I have no idea who she is aside from that.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you don't care, I can't make you care about that. And if you want to lose them, then that's up to you, I guess. So I guess we'll just move on. Because let's move on to the actual video itself then. Okay, so the Count Dankula thing. I actually agree overall that the debate was an example of hubris on Vaush's part. And I'm also fairly certain that Vaush himself recognizes the debate was a significant error on his part and should not have happened. I can't give you a specific clip or something like that, but I know just from memory I've heard him on a stream talk about this. And also the thumbnail, I think, makes it clear that he wasn't particularly happy with the outcome of it. Now, I don't want to get into the debate about this definition. All I'll say on it is, like, I think that the difference between what is it? It's for the I can't remember the exact details of it, but I think there was a difference between the way Count Dankula put it and the way Vaush put it. But I don't want to get into this whole discourse around it. I know you disagree with me on that. Really,
Okay, can I say something on that really quick?
Yeah, please go on.
Okay, so my point is, they're having a debate in real time. In real time, nobody would have noticed the difference. And
Sure.
here's why I say that. I didn't notice the difference until I took notes. You didn't notice the difference the first time you watched the debate or the first time you watched my video. And President Sunday didn't notice the difference when he did his critique. If you go back and watch his first critique where he's going over it, he didn't notice the difference. Okay? People don't notice the difference unless you sit there and pause it and fucking look at the words on the screen and analyze it for an hour. It's not obvious that they're different. It really isn't.
Sure,
And by the way, this isn't even the point. The point is the hypocrisy. The point is that Vaush's criticism of Dankula's definition equally applies to his own definition. So that can still happen, even if their definitions aren't exactly the same, which I said they weren't exactly the same, right? And throwing something else out there, Sunday agreed that Vaush's criticisms also applied to Vaush's own definition. That was the point of that, of bringing that clip up.
Sure. So yeah, certainly in real time people wouldn't have noticed, but in your video when you are breaking it down, you highlight, for example here, prioritize that group of people. You also highlight things should only be done for the benefit of whites. Like, those are different statements, and I think that to refer to that as practically identical doesn't really sit right with me, because the two things you've highlighted are different things. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but in your stream, you said you thought they were practically identical until we went into stuff, and then you changed your mind. I mean, like, it looks practically identical, and that's when you're looking at it. That's when I have the words on the screen. Okay, much less if you just listen through a debate. Like, again, I had that question for a reason. If you had 1,000 people listen to this, how many of them would notice a difference? And I think it's legitimately less than 5. It just sounds like both of them give the colloquial definition of white supremacy. I mean, like, yes, they are different words, but we're bickering over like only and or and like this is really pedantic stuff.
Sure, you feel it's getting a bit nitpicky. I guess I don't want to get into the nitpicky stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are things that if you don't bring up, I'll bring them up to own criticism about the video. I'm not just going to attack every criticism about the video, but I will say that is incredibly nitpicky. It really is.
Sure. Okay, I could tell. Like I said, I didn't really want to get into it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just to sort of highlight that. But I guess the other thing there is, like, do you think that these critiques that have come out of the woodwork from, about these difference in definitions, do you think that would have lost you people in the context of this broader discussion about Count Dankula?
If I hadn't talked to President Sunday, I'm not convinced that a single other person would have noticed it.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. No, it's a fair point. I think, yeah, I do think they are different. But you're right. I didn't actually notice it. Neither President Sunday did. It's only when you actually examine it that you realize.
Yeah, I paid people to vet the script. They didn't notice it. No one else made the comment. I mean, so again, one of the things he likes to do is conflate scale. So I wasn't just saying that some people agree with me. I was saying that, like, literally everyone but him seemed to agree with me on this point. And he was like, well, that's a appeal to popularity. Okay, first of all, he's trying to treat this as though I'm submitting a fucking PhD dissertation, right? To get a philosophy degree. It's a cringe YouTube video about internet edgelords, okay? Like, this is like, my goal isn't to maximize the truth value in propositional logic, all right? It's a persuasive video essay. The goal doesn't need to be, if someone paused on this frame and nitpicked as hard as they could possibly fucking nitpick, right? That's absurd. And I'm going to put this forward. No one else is held to this standard. This is a really ridiculous standard. Can you remember someone else's coming out with a video and people were doing shit like this? It feels really unfair to me.
Okay, the thing I'd say to that, though, is, like, you are making like a sort of, I guess, second video about an extremely contentious figure with a extremely large fan base. Like, it's like the person you're criticizing, that's bound to happen because of the nature of who that person is and the fan base they've got around them. So whilst it's unfair, maybe you could say, that you're getting this much scrutiny for just one aspect of your video. I guess it just kind of is the nature of the beast in some way. Do you see what I mean?
I mean, like, to be completely honest with you, I see very nearly zero value in this critique. Again, the point is
Okay.
the hypocrisy. President Sunday conceded to the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is still completely self-evident to me, right? And we didn't get to the other examples, which are like very, very, very good examples of bad faith, right? So, okay, I this video is too complicated to have, again, no areas where someone could have a problem.
Okay.
What really concerns me is that I make central arguments well. So in this case, I think I made, like, again, bad faith and format were the two sections that were generally speaking the most well received. I think I made those arguments quite well. And even in this case, even sitting there and looking at it, they are almost identical. They're so similar, right? You had some quote, I could go pull it up, but it was basically like, I forget exactly what it was, but it was like, um, one of them requires something and the other one also required it. It's like you have to like leap into weird hypotheticals to come up with a scenario where you find something that applies to one but not the other. They're incredibly, incredibly similar. And like I said, the point was the hypocrisy. So again,
Sure,
even
sure.
if the definitions are different, does it justify his response of the complete indignation and like
Okay.
ferocious attack?
So that is the point I'll come to agreement with you on. There is that I agree that Vaush came too strongly out of the gate, almost looking for that dunk, looking for that harsh critique of Count Dankula's position. And I think if it had been a bit more rhetorically soft or something, you probably would have got a better result. And I think when you look at the totality of this debate and the outcome, and I don't know if you actually put this in. I don't think you did. But the best bit for me of that debate was at the end where Count Dankula recites the 14 words and does the Roman salute. And Vaush has already conceded that he doesn't think he's a white supremacist. And it's
Yeah.
like, it was embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? And yeah. So sure, I don't want to get too much into that definition thing. I think broadly speaking, sorry, go on.
That's simultaneously optically terrible and also some fucking top tier shit posting. Like, I've never shit posted that good. That's fucking hilarious.
Well, this is
That's
the
also
thing.
just optically terrible.
Because the thing is as well is like Count Dankula starts joking about trans people and makes some lewd like kind of disgusting comments about trans people in general, and the Vaush is kind of a bit defeated, like there isn't really much he can do about it, so yeah, it was kind of a shame that he took this debate and yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it just never should have been a debate. It's incredibly
Yeah,
bad
sure,
faith.
it
You
should
don't,
never.
yeah. If he knows he can't prove it, then why would you, you know? This is part of my thing with intent. You can't prove intent, so don't argue about it, right?
I guess I'll bring this thing into it now. One kind of issue I've got, I guess, which applies to the whole video, is we're in some ways kind of willing to accept like Dankula's comments here in regards to it being a joke, and I do have some sympathy for that, I guess. Like, I don't think Dankula is like a Nazi because of the pug thing. I guess later on in the video you bring up some comments that Vaush makes about conservatives, and I just think that you could potentially, like, there's I think a few of them that came up that could potentially be a joke or could be viewed as a joke. And I just wonder how you feel about that, how in this segment we're talking about Dankula and the fact he's telling jokes and he's using that as a defense. Do you not think Vaush could maybe make the same defense about that segment when he's talking about conservatives?
So the problem with the conservative section is that I think I have literally 50 examples or something.
Sure,
I mean, they
sure.
scroll by on screen for like a minute and a half. There's a billion examples.
Hmm.
So okay. So like you said you kind of like shit posting, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like there is a legitimate problem where it's kind of hard to figure out whether someone is shit posting or not,
Yes, I
right?
agree. I agree.
Because it's like I said, if you're going to make jokes about being a Nazi, you necessarily kind of push to the edges of what's acceptable because that's what's funny. That's like the whole point. That's the point of edgy humor, is to sort of stretch the bounds of acceptability. And it is very difficult to tell the difference between those jokes and like someone being sincere. And there are some hints, there are some ways you can figure it out, but it's difficult. But so here's what I'm going to say to that. This line of thinking, leads to the conclusion that someone is justified in being bad faith. It doesn't remove the idea that Vaush is bad faith. It's just saying, well, yeah, he's bad faith, but so what? He should be. And I can't, if somebody wants to believe that, I don't know how I could possibly talk them out of it. Personally, I really don't like this line of thinking. Um, I mean, the logical consequence of this is that you basically can't tell jokes anymore. Um,
Sure. I mean, I think I agree, but I would hope you would apply that same line of thinking to Count Dankula as well. Then.
so when I'm talking about other people, I try pretty hard to not like defend them outside of the context of exactly the video we're talking about.
Okay.
So, like, I don't try to and make the argument that Sam Harris, like, loves black people or whatever. I'm just saying that in this video, it's very clear what position he's expressing, right? And the same thing with Dankula. I didn't look up anything else about Dankula. I don't wanna know anything else about Dankula. I'm just concerned with what was the outcome of this debate, right?
Okay.
Um, so I don't know anything about Dankula. I saw the Nazi pug thing. I thought it was ridiculous the way he was treated. That he got like I don't remember exactly what happened. I don't know if he served jail time. I know he got fined or something. And there was like a whole legal process. I mean, that's just absurd, right? But it's like, I don't know anything else about the guy.
Okay,
So
okay, that's fair enough. If you don't know, you don't know. I guess my issue there would be that some knowing other things about some of these people could contextualize some of these critiques that people are making. So I guess I'm just concerned that if you're dismissing sort of certain critiques offhand, but you don't know more about the person that you're not defending, that's the wrong word, but you're kind of
let's
like,
well, that's the thing. If you're saying okay, like let's take the argument people seem to be making. 'Cause I don't know much about Dankula, but I've heard the arguments people are making. They're saying he associates with these terrible people, right? He seems to have no problem having these terrible associations, and he makes these jokes that could be taken one of two ways. So one way is he's just shit posting, and the other way is that like it's an indication of some underlying nefarious behavior. So you could take the conclusion, okay, we shouldn't grant him good faith, but again, that would just, I mean, that would just verify the thesis of the section that he's treating them in bad faith. And here's another thing: is like you can extrapolate that using some pretty simple logic. You can extrapolate that to basically anyone who has any substantive disagreements with you, right? I mean, okay, so Dankula shouldn't be treated in good faith. It's like, well, why should any conservative be treated in good faith? You know, Vosh thinks they're fascist and Nazis. Should he just by default be bad faith to every conservative? And you can go through that line of logic and come to the conclusion that yes, but then again, you're just agreeing with my conclusion of the video. I'm just saying he's bad faith. You know, if you think he's justified in being bad faith, okay, you agreed with the conclusion that I was working towards. Like the reason that I started on the bad faith section is because that is Vosh's audience's most common critique of him. They seem to know that he's bad faith, right? So it seemed like a very, very easy sell.
that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. I mean, the thing is for me is all like it just I don't know. It just feels like you're sort of saying, well, I don't care about anything else Dankula's doing, and that's fair enough. It's just
Oh, yeah,
that
it's about
whilst
Vosh. I'm concerned with Vosh's behavior.
yeah, sure, of course. Okay, I see where you're coming from. So basically, what we're saying then is like, even if we've got criticism of Count Dankula, and Vaush is treating him badly, if you think Count Dankula is a bad person, you're kind of agreeing that Vaush is okay to treat him badly. So you're kind of arriving
So
at the
this is
same conclusion you're trying to reach. Anyway, is that more or less what you're saying?
so this sort of hits on a broader thing. So people will say something like, "You're defending Sam Harris. You're defending Dankula, right?" I'm not. I don't like a lot of these people. I don't fucking like Ben Shapiro, right? Like I made it very explicit in the PragerU section. That fucking PragerU video pissed me the fuck off, right? I hate that fucking video. I abhor it. That's why I put it in the video. It's like let it be very fucking clear that I'm not fucking defending this guy, right? Um, but the only people Vosh is going to like engage in this behavior with are these people. It's conservatives and people that he views as being incredibly nefarious. So of course, every example I have is going to be these people.
Right.
I mean, are there going to be an example of like Vosh talking to Lance and Vosh is like a hella bad faith to him? Like, of course not. But I'm not defending them, right? I didn't make the argument Sam Harris isn't a racist. I just said you can't look at the context of this podcast and say that like this is good evidence of like Sam Harris denying systemic racism and saying that he hates black. It's just ridiculous, right? But I don't really like Sam Harris that much. I don't want to defend Sam Harris. I don't know anything about Dankula. I hate that fucking PragerU guy, right?
Okay, that's interesting actually. Let me bring in the Sam Harris stuff into this then as well, because I think this is an interesting thing to add. So first of all, I'll just say that I agree that taking a 6-minute clip out of a nearly 2 hour podcast and solely commented on that is poor form on the part of Vaush. You know, I think you obviously ought to respond to the entire thing. It was a 2 hour podcast, and was it just about one topic? Is that right, or do you know?
It's hard. Yeah, I listened to the whole thing and read the whole thing. It's hard to
Wow.
say that it's about one topic because Sam Harris kind of meanders and
Hmm.
I mean, it's broadly about systemic injustice and police brutality, but he goes here and there and touches on it. You know, it's meandering.
Okay, so the comment I've got here is just further context that, and I think you spoke to President something about this, but it's further context that just I think might call into question Sam Harris's comments. But from what I understand, then that's to you largely an irrelevance. You're purely focused on the content that was in the video. I would presume, though, that, say, for example, if Vaush was covering the Sam Harris thing and he brought in some comments about Sam Harris's views on IQ and the bell curve and made that clear to his audience, would you perhaps have been a bit more sympathetic to his position, do you think? Or
So my goal with that was I didn't want to look at anything outside of Vosh's video or the podcast. If
right?
Vaush had said something about Charles Murray in the video, then it's in the video and I'll address it, right? But it wasn't. Vosh's claim was very, very clear. He made a number of claims, but one claim he made over and over and over and over and over again, and that's that Sam Harris is denying the existence of systemic racism in this podcast. And I'm going to throw in another piece of information here. Vaush responded to the video, and he owned that 100%. He
Okay.
said that the Sam Harris section was completely correct. He just owned it. He said, "I'm right." So President Sunday's critique is like, "Oh well, Vaush can use this as a straw man to attack valid critiques." Vaush owned it, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I just made a
sure.
fucking video calling the guy evil. He has every fucking reason. By the way, I'll go ahead and throw Vaush a bone here. Um, I thought that Vaush's response was pretty reasonable. There's one thing he said that I didn't like, but overall, I don't have any reason to believe that it was a malicious response. I thought it was a pretty genuine response. He completely owned the Sam Harris section. He owned some of the stuff about police rhetoric, I believe, and the conservative stuff. Um, Obviously, he doesn't like the video. That's fine, but I expected a lot worse of a response than that. So I can't really fault that much. I thought it was a pretty decent response. I thought it seemed honest to me.
Okay, right. I think I could wrap this part up. I think, and then we can move on to the next thing. But I think, yeah, I think I now fully understand where you're coming from. So your point is, Vaush failed to demonstrate in the course of the video that Count Dankula was a white supremacist or a Nazi, and engaged in like a bad faith way, as you would put it, with him. And outside of that, you don't care about any other context, which is fair enough. You're just concentrating on the debate. And I agree with you that, yeah, Vaush was
Yeah. So
completely unable to substantiate that. So there wasn't really
yeah.
any need for him to attack so viciously.
Well, the broader. So okay.
Sure.
So really quick background. The video started out as a critique of online politics generally. And that section could have been titled "Fuck React Andes," right? Because
Right.
like it's basically a criticism of the React Andy format. And a really good example of that is at one point Vaush is going over the Fryer study, and sorry, not Vaush. Sam Harris is going over the Fryer study, and he lists off like 6 or 7 things that are just inarguable examples of systemic racism in policing. And Vaush interrupts him to insult him, right? And okay, here's the thing. I didn't notice that the first time I watched the video. I didn't notice that. I had to like be in note-taking mode and realize that, right? At the beginning when I said, if you were to watch him watch these videos and then go back and watch the video on your own, you would feel like you were watching it for the first time. That's because that's how I felt most of the time. I would watch him watch a video and I would have to go watch the video for context. And I very often felt like I was watching something that I hadn't seen before, even though I just watched Vosh watch it, right? Like the React Andy shit, if you pause a lot, especially if it's someone like Vosh who speaks with a lot of confidence, it's really easy to put whatever in your audience's mind that you want. So that's I mean that's basically the point of that format. The format section is that just through speaking confidently, Vaush is able to put something in his audience's mind that is the exact opposite of what's actually going on. And it's not just the lack of context that he only watched 6 minutes. Even within that 6 minutes, Harris makes an explicit case for systemic racism. There's no other way to interpret the police statistics that he gives. That's just an argument for systemic racism, and Vaush just blows right through it.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, I'd say that if we were able to bring in, if Vaush had brought in extra context in order to strengthen his argument and maybe point out, other aspects with the Sam Harris thing, or had done more to demonstrate Count Dankula was a white supremacist, you may not have even focused on these segments. Presumably, if he'd have made a good case, and so I guess yeah, we're here because Vaush failed to do these things in the course of his coverage, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, I had a bunch of examples of like, these are videos that he did where I felt really misled as to the underlying contents of what he was looking at. And it's like, okay, well, you want to make that point. So which one is the best? And I felt this one was the best because if you look at the rest of the podcast, Harris says some yikesy stuff, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say Harris doesn't say yikesy stuff. He says some pretty fucking yikesy stuff, but he very clearly affirms systemic racism. There's just no getting around that, right? And the Vosh's whole central premise is that he's denying it. So it's just a very, very, very strong example of him misleading his audience about the contents of the video, and that's why he just owned the section, right?
Okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm kind of, the thing is like, regardless of like little bits and pieces here and there, I'm talking about bringing more context in or whatever. I think the fundamental critique of both of these segments is pretty reasonable. And like I said, I don't think the debate should have happened. I think pulling 6 minutes out of a podcast and responding just to that is bad form. So I think we've broadly got agreement there. If we maybe have some disagreement about the details, so I'm kind of confident to kind of move on to the next bit, unless there was anything further you wanted to add or push back on something I'd said about it that I hadn't covered. I mean, if you wanted to do that.
I think I did have a note from something you said there, but I don't think it was super relevant. Oh, no. That's way later. That's way later.
Okay, no problem. Right. Well, let's leave that there. Let's move on to the next part. So, this next segment I kind of picked out, and one thing I just want to comment on as well, for the sake of the audience. Obviously, I haven't done the level of research. You put how much? 500 hours into this? Is that right?
Yeah, it's probably more than, it was like 2.5 months working. Like, not, it was a lot of fucking work. Like,
Right.
by the way, this is, anybody who says this was low effort, I'm not going to listen to anything they have to fucking say. Like, that is the stupidest fucking criticism. I spent an amount of a ridiculous, like a senseless amount of time trying to make this fucking video. I paid people $1,000 to fucking critique it to make sure that it was better than it would have been. When I had a fucking channel with 13 subscribers, the fact that people are saying that this is low effort and that I was lazy, anyone who says that, ignore everything they have to say. That's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I was actually talking a bit about this and somewhat defending your honor on this because I saw people saying to you like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you put more work into it? And
yeah, imagine watching a movie and being like, why didn't you have this scene in it? What the fuck kind of a comment is that?
yeah, I do agree that those kind of critiques fall a bit flat and are somewhat like unfair and a bit like asking a bit much.
It's just the dumbest fucking thing in the world. Like, this was the problem talking with Sunday, is he has different priorities for what he would want to do in a video. Again, he wants a fucking video to be me giving a PhD dissertation defense in a philosophy department. I'm sorry, but fucking I don't want to do that. And apparently nobody else wants to watch it. So, like, what the fuck? What, you can't tell me what my priorities need to be in making a video. If you think something in the video is wrong, that's a perfectly valid critique. You don't get to tell me what I have to add to the video. It's just silly. And people, and some people would say like, oh, you could have made a better argument there. You know what? I probably could have, but I can't sit there and watch every single video on his channel, dude. Like, I don't know, man. That general class of critiques falls really, really. I don't like it.
Sure. Okay. I mean, the thing is, anything that you do as an endeavor, as a piece of content or media, of course, could have more effort put into it. But I know. Well, you said yourself, you paid people to look at the script. Other than that, did you have anyone else like working with you or helping you with gathering things for this?
Oh no, it's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
by the way, if you watch the video on Vadim and tell me that's a person who has any idea how to edit a fucking video. Like, I had to learn how to do so much fucking shit to make this stupid fucking video. When I was finished, when I had like the last couple days of editing, I was like, making this video is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever done in my life. This is so much work to make this stupid video no one's gonna fucking watch about internet cringe lords. It's fucking so stupid, dude. It was incredible amount of work.
Yeah, sure. No, I don't. Yeah, I recognize that. It's clear you put a lot of effort and interest into this. So yeah, I think that the point I wanted to make, though, is obviously there'd be some things that I would myself have to go and engage in research in. Like I'd have to read the studies that you read and stuff like that to maybe contest things that I feel like I disagree with. And I haven't done that, right? It was last night I watched the video, and I'm probably not going to do that. So I'm only going to kind of pick things out that I picked up, which are quite straightforward to discuss without requiring reams of evidence to go over. So I just want to let chat know that, don't expect me to be going into like the facts and figures about this and that, because I'm not really in a position to. And if you want to do that, do so yourself. Whatever, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about is the misinformation. To be honest with you, this is a concern that I've got as well, that I share, is, without getting into the weeds, don't really have much to add. I think that we ought to very clearly state facts about incendiary and contentious events such as police shootings in order to accurately assess events and have a healthy public discourse. Streaming breaking news is tricky and can easily fall to misinformation. As a content creator, you should be aware and be cautious about covering breaking news. And much like you said, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, just don't do it and don't make the mistakes.
Wait, so let me really quickly say something.
Sure.
I don't place the burden of evidence on Vaush. They're like, okay, look, he's going to cover breaking news. Let's just get over that. It's going to happen, okay? I have no expectation he's going to stop covering breaking news. Of course he will. He wants to cover it because he cares about this stuff. He wants to cover it because it makes him money. He's going to cover it, right? Just be a little bit more responsible. It's like with the shit with the cop planting the cop planting evidence.
That was terrible.
Just sitting there like, yeah, it's fine to cover that and like react to it, but he was saying shit like the cop is trained to turn his body camera away because so he knows, so he won't see him planting evidence, and like imagine the fucking black hole this cop has for a heart. Like, you can't say shit like that, man. What the fuck? You don't know what happened. You saw a 14-second clip. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think this is common. An issue I've got is that, I'm a Marxist, so I like to do like a systemic critique of, say, the police, but people get really tangled up in these individual cases and, make these statements about what is sometimes extremely flimsy evidence. Like, what was it? How long? It was like a however long video on Twitter.
I think it was 14 seconds. I think it was 14 seconds. There's like a margin of error of 2 seconds, but it was a very short clip.
I just don't think you can come to any conclusion off the back of such a short video. And, I know this video is about Vaush, but this isn't unique to Vaush. There were lots of other content creators that did the same.
No, this is not, absolutely not. It's like almost everybody. Most content creators are selling an ideological position, and when something happens, they just insert their ideological position into it. It's absolutely not restricted to Vaush.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, I'm not even, okay, again, so one thing people kept reaming me for is not giving Vaush any credit and acting like he's like not saying anything positive about him. Like, it's kind of weird to expect a hit piece to like give him a lot of credit, but here, now we're in an interview. I'm happy to give him credit. Okay. I'm not certain that Vaush spreads a considerable more amount of misinformation than a lot of these other people. I mean, like, Lance is constantly fucking retweeting misinformation, right? And if you look at like debates, people fuck shit up in debates all the fucking goddamn time. Like, there is a lot of misinformation in like Twitch politics.
Sure.
And like, there's an element of what Vaush does that's unique. Like with the cop shit, he'll just like go so fucking hard. But in terms of, because he does a lot of misinformation. It's hard to say that it's probably higher than the average, but it's not like, it's like there are things that Vaush does where it's just like out in the stratosphere in terms of how much he does it compared to other people. This is much closer to the average, right? There's just a lot of people spread a lot of fucking misinformation. This is not a problem that's restricted to him.
Another thing I don't think you included, which fair enough, it's a whole other tangent, but was the GameStop stuff about the app, Robinhood app, and stuff like that.
He spread some misinformation, and then like Destiny put it in a manifesto, and then like Vaush copped to it, and I honestly forgot about it. The GameStop memes was so fucking boring to me.
Oh, okay,
I just forgot about it.
I'm not saying you should have included
some misinfo. Oh, you mean in general? Oh, everybody spread misinfo about the GameStop shit. That was so fucking bad, dude. That was so bad. Yeah, every single fucking person was like, that was commenting on it, was just saying the dumbest fucking shit. It's like everybody was revealing that they had no clue, and they were just speaking with confidence about something that they were completely clueless about, which is sad. But yeah, that was not. So that was an instance where Vaush wasn't nearly as bad as some other people. He spread some misinfo, but it wasn't nearly as bad as some other people.
Yeah, of course. I just use it as an example because, basically, I'm just ruminating a bit because it frustrates me as well. And, I think people just ought to look at as accurate as facts as you can and kind of go from there. And I don't think you can really ask for more than that, So, yeah. But like I say, I don't really think there's any disagreement there. I think the misinformation kind of aspect was pretty good, pretty solid. So yeah. Um, and in terms of like I put this all into one segment: the dehumanization, the rhetoric around conservatives, the accusations of fascism. Largely agree that Vaush's rhetoric can be pretty irresponsible around like conservatives. The dehumanization and othering that you presented in the video was more severe than I had been aware of. So that was a big kind of like, what the fuck to me? Like, this is pretty bad. And yeah, I think accusations of fascism. He is far too quick to kind of dish out those kind of accusations, and I hope that maybe he reflects on that and stops doing that, right?
Can I make a quick point about fascism? So there's this concept of a floating signifier. Basically, it means that there's a word, but the word doesn't really point to anything that people can agree on. So a really good example is postmodernism. Every time I talk to someone about postmodernism, they have a totally different idea of what it is. And then when you look at the postmodern authors, I think it's only like Baudrillard actually calls himself a postmodernist. Most
Yep.
of these people don't call themselves postmodernists.
Yep.
So I'm not really convinced that I think postmodernism is kind of a floating signifier. I don't think there really is any rigid set of ideas that define it well. And I see fascism as being very similar. It's like people have such wildly different definitions of fascism that I'm not sure that the word really has much meaning. Like you would have to learn what someone individually means because people seem to use the word in very, very different ways.
Yeah, a lot of, particularly on the left, I noticed people going about Umberto Eco's kind of 14 points, but as you demonstrated quite aptly in the video, this could be they're so broad you could even apply them to someone that, most would agree isn't even a fascist, like Vaush,
Yeah, and a bit of something that isn't necessarily completely obvious. Okay, so if you listen to the music in the video, every single part except that section is like either it's relaxing and calm or it's a disquieting in tone, and that section is like actively comical. So there's that section is like a meme. Like, let's be
Sure.
clear, that's a fucking meme section. And some people have been saying you don't understand Eco's points. I wasn't trying to 100% accurately apply Eco's points. That's the thing. The you aren't going like you aren't you can use these things and twist them and apply them to anyone. That's part of the point. Like, I wasn't again when the segment ends, I explicitly say Vaush isn't a fascist, and part of like what I'm trying to demonstrate is that Eco's points can be misused. So the criticism that I don't understand Eco's points, you didn't understand my meaning. So I'm going to take that as an editing problem. I think that's my fault as like the person who made the video that wasn't clear, but whether or not I understand Eco's points is really irrelevant. I mean,
Sure.
yeah.
So you used a musical cue to denote a comedy, or this is a bit of a meme.
Well,
Maybe
it's also like I mean, like the premise of like is Voss a fascist? I don't think anyone like the biggest Vosh hater would watch that, and I don't think they would take it all that seriously. Actually, that's not necessarily true. Sargon made a comment in that video that he thinks Vosh is a fascist. So okay, Sargon thinks Vosh is a fascist. I don't think anybody else is really going to think that Vosh is a fascist, right? It's just it's a comical accusation that I don't think people would take seriously. And then I put on comical music, and then as soon as the segment ends, I say "JK," right?
sure.
It, I mean, yeah, I tried to indicate it, but it probably wasn't clear enough.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean that's like an editing thing to. There's loads of things you could do to make that clearer, right? Like it's a meme or whatever, but you live and
Yeah,
learn, I guess. But yeah, overall, I think I broadly agree, and I think we've got a lot of agreement around like, yeah, we shouldn't. Like, listen, criticize conservatives and specific conservatives for what they do and what they say, but to paint all conservatives as like almost like an enemy for an internal enemy force, particularly where, as you identify, there's even like there's small government conservatives that are quite prominent in America. They certainly are not fascist, And as you
yeah.
aptly highlighted in terms of like the like dialectical materialism kind of analysis or whatever, but you talked about how people become conservatives because it suits their class interests, and that is just 100% correct. Of course, they want lower taxes because they earn a lot of money. So yeah, I think that I
So
guess
I was actually I purposefully said perceive their class interest because
yeah, sure, sure.
I actually don't think it's accurate. I think I okay, I'm repeating something that I heard that I haven't like gone and like looked up 3 sources for, right? But I've heard that richer people are actually like more than 50% of them are Democrats now, or that there's more Democrats than the Republicans. So I'm not entirely sure that that's true, but it certainly is the case that these people perceive that paying taxes against their self interest. So let me give you an example of how that might make sense. So let's say that you feel a sense of pride that that you would lose if you had to go like take a government handout. If that was the case, then you wouldn't want to take handouts, so you wouldn't want to fund handouts. So
Yes,
even if you
sure.
weren't earning very much money, you could still perceive paying taxes as being against your class interest because it's paying for something that you don't want to do, right? And I think this
Yeah.
is something that this is one of the arguments that gets used in terms of means testing. One of the reasons people don't like means testing is because you have to go and say that you want help, and people don't like doing that. I don't like doing that. Most people don't like doing that, right?
Yeah, sure. So this is like we don't need to get too deep into the weeds of the politics of it, but yeah, certainly it's like the simplest way is like thinking of the concept of like the temporarily embarrassed millionaire, which seems to be quite prevalent in America.
Yeah.
I think that leads people to those positions. I guess the only other thing, I don't know, like because I think that there's maybe other aspects you could bring into this about the religiosity of people and how conservative viewpoints around progressive issues aligns with religiosity in some cases. But yeah, I would also concede that, sure, there's some conservatives that aren't really as interested in that aspect. And I can't remember, is there a link to the study that you, or the poll that you put with all those details about what Republicans think about various progressive issues?
So if I recall correctly, at the end of that section, okay, so what I did was I went through Pew Research
Mm,
and I just like searched for every single immigration poll for like like I think since Trump got elected or like since the beginning of 2016 or something. I just grabbed all of them and put them in a document and then went through to see what they said. So at the end, and this is in most sections, the citations are actually in the section, and this one they're at the end. So I think there's like 20 citations and a bunch of different claims at the end. So it's in a weird place, but I think there's a note in the script that says, "Look at the end of the section for citations." But yeah, all the citations are there.
okay, fair enough. Like I say, it would require significant digging and looking to look at all the stats. I'm not really interested in doing that. But, I broadly agree that, yeah, sure, it's not like conservatives are raging racists and fascists. Some of them are more reasonable. Some of them, do genuinely want to help people out. It's just their conception of helping people is different to our conception as people on the left or whatever. So that's fair enough, I think. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, the only other thing I just kind of took a bit of issue with, I guess, is like I'm not sure exactly what your kind of goal here was, maybe, but maybe you can elaborate. But I feel like kind of picking out clips of like Bill O'Reilly being sensitive about a death at the hands of the police. Like I'm fairly certain you could go and dig up a lot of clips of him saying pretty egregious stuff of similar contexts. Like for example, I could go and find a few clips of Tucker Carlson that you'd probably agree with, you know. And I guess the other thing as well is like if we flip that around, and this is a pure guess, an intuitive guess, I'm pretty sure you could probably pick out clips of Vaush saying more positive or sensitive things about conservatives. So I just found it a bit weird that you kind of like did this Fox News thing, and it's like, well, we could flip that round and do that with Vaush too. Do you see what I
okay,
mean?
so in terms of like Vosh clips saying nice things about conservatives, I don't remember finding them.
Okay.
If I'm being honest. Like maybe there's like a really something really hedged compliments or something, but he's pretty mean to conservatives, dog.
Okay.
Um, in terms of the Bill O'Reilly thing, so the point of that section is that I'm trying to give people. Okay, so first of all, the Bill O'Reilly thing is responding directly to the clip. It's like setting up the clip where Vosh says, "There's no black man who could die at the hands of the police. The conservatives would not laud." And then it's sandwiched
Right.
between Bill
Okay.
O'Reilly being pissed off about Garner and the Fox people, whoever it's like Chris Christie, Hannity, and some other people, um, uh, being really upset about George Floyd. So like the point isn't to say because like this is a criticism people have given me. Um, that it's hard for me to make sense. It makes sense that people have this, and I don't know what I could have done about it. But they're saying like you're trying to humanize these people and make it seem like they're not racist. My point wasn't to say that these people like I'm not trying to say that Bill O'Reilly has like not like a zero amount of racism. The point is just to say that these aren't like people that love it when black people are killed, right? Which is exactly what Vaush said. That's a massive, massive overstatement. Um, and the general point of the section is to try and get people to see conservatives as being people. It's like you can have someone that you disagree with on a bunch of things and think that they have moral consideration, right? Like
Okay.
this shouldn't be um this shouldn't be a controversial statement, but it is, right? Um and I think people could say you went a little bit hard and maybe that's right. Like my point was, like, I've been friends with conservatives and they don't hate black people. Like, not all conservatives hate black people. Having a conservative friend isn't a bad thing, right? And so you don't it's not like someone doesn't want open borders and so you should never talk to them again. It's ridiculous. Um and like America has some serious fucking political divide right now. Like the, um the political landscape is basically just factional warfare. Every issue that comes up, people just take a side and then just like fight to the death. And very often the sides they take make no sense. Like Republican, like I went to the grocery store without a mask because I didn't know that there was a mask mandate because I've been sitting in my fucking apartment editing this stupid video with all my time. And some lady came up and thanked me for not wearing a mask. And I was like, what the fuck?
Jesus
Like it's a political
Christ.
statement. It's a political statement to go to the fucking grocery store. And it's like I would have worn one if I knew. I just didn't know because I don't know. But like the fact that wearing or not wearing a mask is like a political statement is ridiculous.
Mhm.
It's only like that because everything is this factional warfare. And if you want that to stop, one of the things that needs to happen is that you realize that not all conservatives are Nazis. Like that's really the essence of the section.
Sure, and that's something that I've spoken about myself on stream. Particularly Trump voters. The idea that they're deranged Nazis that want to incinerate minorities is absurd. Some of them voted for Obama. Some of them are desperate. Some of them, don't feel they've got a way out of their circumstances, so they take an extreme route. Well, not well.
Some
The
of them
point I'm
just
making.
didn't like Hillary.
Yeah, some of them hated Hillary. Yeah, sure,
I
sure.
mean, I really don't want to defend Trump in any conceivable way, but there are if you have a certain set of policy positions, there are reasons to vote for Trump. Like let's say the only thing you cared about was non-interventionist foreign policy. Like I would have predicted that Trump would have been less likely to start a war than Hillary. If that's the only thing that I cared about, it could be a reason to vote for Trump. And then you would say, okay, well then you're tolerating all of his racist rhetoric and shit. And it's like, yeah, you would be right. You would be the kind of person that would be tolerating these things. And I don't think that's cool, right? I wouldn't have voted for Trump under any circumstances. But it, it's not like everyone who voted for Trump is Hitler, and that's what people act like. And I just think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think there's strong critiques you could make of certain GOP politicians who engage in some pretty fucking egregious rhetoric. But yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Also, something else to clarify: when I defend conservatives, I'm mostly defending conservative voters.
Yes, sure.
So a lot of like, let's just take Vaush's criticisms. Like Vaush calls Trump a fascist. I'm not gonna fucking disagree with someone that calls Trump a fascist, right? Like I personally, if I had to like come up with a definition of fascism, I don't think Trump would quite meet the bar, but it's not much of a fucking leap, dog. Like there's some fucking sketchy motherfucking shit coming from that dude. And a lot of these people, I think Vaush's criticism is a bit hyperbolic, right? My title's a bit hyperbolic in a sense, right? But it's not that far off. Like some of these Republican politicians really are pretty fucking disgusting. So I'm not saying I don't think I defend politicians at any point. I think I'm just trying to defend like, the everyman voter people, right? So just to make that clear, I don't like these politician people, right? They're fucking I don't like those guys.
Sure. I mean, I got that impression, like, from your video, that it was more about the voters and stuff. I guess, like, to really nail it on, there could have maybe been a real explicit clarity of, I'm concerned about the voters, and them getting denigrated. Da, da, da. I don't know. Maybe there's something there that you could have done to make it clearer for,
Well,
the people at the
I
back.
did explicitly say that because I
Yeah.
said like, listen, let's talk about Trump. I hate Trump. I'm not going to defend
Yeah,
Trump, but I
sure.
will to some degree
Okay.
defend Trump. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I mean, just being honest with you, I kind of agree on most of this stuff. So, I think the last thing I think I really wanted to talk about was the stochastic terrorism thing.
yeah.
So you sort of clarified about how Vaush himself says stochastic terrorism is a thing, and then basically you feel he himself engages in it, and that's your main critique of this, right?
Yeah, so okay. One of the critiques I'm happy to own about the video that I'm just not going to push back on at all is that I didn't do a good enough job of making the case with the stochastic terrorism section in a certain sense. So at a point, the entire essence of the video was trying to take Vosh's positions and use them against him, and either show that he's a hypocrite or contradictory, or that he does exactly the same things that he accused other people of doing. So some of that is still in. Obviously, like the last clips at the end of the section will be him, excoriating people for something that he did. That's usually like the last clip. Um, But this stochastic terrorism section in particular was supposed to be exactly that. Like the point was supposed to be Vaush thinks stochastic terrorism is a thing. So something I removed is that Vaush accused Felix of stochastic terrorism for wearing a fucking hoodie, right? He said that the Christchurch shooting happened because Felix wore a fucking hoodie. Okay, you're putting a very fucking low bar on stochastic terrorism, my dude, and it's something that he's talked about a lot. He's talked a lot about responsible platforming, responsible use of your platform and shit like that. So there's no, people watching the video personally. A lot of people aren't going to think stochastic terrorism is that big of a deal or that serious or whatever, and so they're just inherently not going to um, think that section is super serious. That's one of the sections people will have the most problem with, and I understand why. I personally think the Kenosha riot sequence is pretty cool, but the argument overall, I can understand why people would have issues with it. But the argument is quite bulletproof insofar as if you take the things that Vaush has said, it's almost impossible to get around. Like he argues this is a thing, right? He argues that the sociological causes of events is what we need to be focusing on, right? This is what he says. So the point of that section was to be um, sort of hanging him with his own words, and I don't think that I did that in the way that I wanted to. So
Sure.
the response to that section, my perception has been, if someone thinks stochastic terrorism is a serious problem, then they like that section, and if they don't, they don't. And I understand that. I think that I could have done a better job editing it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the one thing that I sort of picked out, which I thought was a bit, I put the word disingenuous here. Like, it sounds a bit strong. I don't know if I quite go with that, but basically, it's the way in which you said, "Oh, I wonder where these people got that idea." And you're playing all this footage of the Kenosha civil unrest, and it looks cool. Don't get me wrong, but then you're playing like Vaush over the top of it, and it gives the impression that like these people that are out in Kenosha will listen to Vaush's stream, and they're like, "Let's fucking get out there and cause a riot." And I just don't think there's like as a director link as you're seeming to make in that segment that you can really demonstrate. Whereas someone like, I don't know, Ben Shapiro off the top of my head, whilst I can't remember the specific details of it, I think that if I were to look into it, there's a more direct link you could make between Ben Shapiro and a terrorist act to make an accusation of stochastic terrorism. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm kind of of two minds about that.
Okay.
On one hand, I can definitely see the critique. I can definitely see how someone would watch it and get the wrong idea. Um, so I don't really want to fully push back on that. If someone gave me that critique, I would kind of be like, okay, sure. Um, the problem is, and I've asked a lot of people this question. If you take the idea, if you take a couple of premises, right, that stochastic terrorism is a real thing, and that the Kenosha riots happened because of the anti-police sentiment in the zeitgeist, the question becomes, okay, well, which figures would have contributed to this the most? And I haven't heard a good answer for what public figures are more vociferously ACAB than Vaush. It's like, is there anybody who is more so than him spreading these narratives? Because I can't think of them, right? So there is the argument that, like, basically the argument for this section being misleading or something like that would be that there isn't as direct of a link as you're implying. Um, and my response to that would basically be, I think that's a fair critique, but I tried to outline that there isn't a direct link with stochastic terrorism. It was just like I was trying to link what Vaush is saying with the outcome. That is obviously what I was trying to do, but I wasn't trying to make it a direct link insofar as like these fucking people have iPods in, listening to Vaush talk about Ben Shapiro, right? That's that's obviously not what happened. The point was this event happened because people have these feelings about police, and there's some of those feelings are justified, but a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are a result of pretty serious misinformation and pretty inflammatory rhetoric. And Vaush doesn't just engage in it; he engages in a fucking lot of it to the point where I can't think of anybody who does more of it. Right?
Um, Yeah, I think for me, I you know, hearing some of the rhetoric Bosch engaging in about the police acting like they're like, listen, I've got fucking critique of the police for days, like obviously, right? But I think
Yeah,
to
I'm
act
not a fan of the police, by the way. You might get that impression. I probably would have been like straight up ACAB when I was 22. I'm
okay,
not. I've had a lot of bad experiences with the police.
sure. I mean, I see in chat, Vosh has repeatedly said ACAB is about the institution, not the individuals. Methaudu, the way I'd respond to that is fair enough. I agree with that, but why are you bringing up a photo of some random police officer having a breakdown and going, "Let's bully this person"? Essentially,
Yeah. So
like
I
that's individualizing it, right?
No, so this gets to a much broader problem that I didn't bring up, but is an extremely salient critique of Vaush. He takes both sides of almost every position all the fucking time. Like if you pause on the quotes in the Sam Harris video, he explicitly says we shouldn't talk about police brutality. He explicitly says that. He's like, we shouldn't argue about police brutality. How many clips do you think I could bring up of him complaining about police brutality? Right? It's like if you take most individual issues, you can find clips of him saying one thing and then clips of him saying another thing. So the idea that you could say, "Oh, well, he says criticize the institutions, not the individuals." Okay, you can say that, and he does say that, but he also says the opposite. He also says every single time anything happens involving cops, he basically says, "This fucking person deserves to die. This person deserves to be in prison. This person has a fucking black hole for a heart. Can you fucking believe the things that these people, all the shit that he says, right?" So I don't accept that as a valid critique at all. The fact, like, that's just a smokescreen, in my opinion. It's purposeful that he gives both sides of all these issues exactly so people can say stuff like that. They can say, "Oh, well, don't you remember when he said this?" And that actually doesn't matter at all. It does again. So, like an example I used earlier. Let's say that I say, "I don't steal. I'm not going to steal for you, but I might steal from you a little bit tomorrow. But I don't steal, and I'm not going to steal from you." And then I steal from you. Does it matter that I said I wasn't going to steal from you? I stole from you. So it doesn't matter if he says critique institutions, not individuals, and then he critiques a bunch of fucking individual cops every single time anything happens.
Yeah, this. To be honest with you, yeah, this is a frustration of mine because, like I say, people are saying, "Oh, but he's reporting current events, stuff like that." I just don't think. I don't even know what the full context of this TikTok was, but it seems to me to be a particularly egregious example of individualizing a systemic issue. If you're bringing up a TikTok of a cop who's having a bad day and going at them, where's the systemic critique there? The systemic critique would be.
Here's the thing.
Yeah,
This idea of systemic critique from him is fucking stupid. Okay, like I said, the kind of police brutality that he's concerned about is very, very rare. It's anecdotal. It's not systemic. Like very rare. This is not a fucking, like I said, 16 times more people die from Advil overdoses than get killed by police. And then when you look at the people who are getting killed by police, almost all of them are fucking armed and like shooting at cops and shit. And like I can show you Vaush clips where he says if someone shoots at the cops should be able to shoot back, right? So again, this is why I like using Vaush's words in these arguments. I don't need to make the argument myself. He makes the argument. The question is a question of scale. How big of a problem is this? And he makes it seem like a much bigger problem than it actually is.
Sure. I mean, I didn't really want to get into because I've not read these studies that you've read. I mean, I suppose one thing I will say is you say that like these studies that you've read, contend that there isn't an issue with police brutality against black people specifically. But the one critique I had when I spoke about this is, well, what about the prevalence? Sorry, go on.
That was the note I had. That was
yeah,
the one
yeah,
thing I
sure.
wanted to bring
Okay,
up.
go on.
So so I don't remember exactly what you said, but if I could repeat exactly what you said, it would make my point. You said something to the effect of you made the argument that there isn't demonstrable racial bias um, in police shootings, but there is demonstrable racial bias in police use of force. And I agree with that. I made that
Okay.
point in the thing. So like in two different sections. So in the Sam Harris section, I went over him covering the Fryer study with all the examples of systemic racism, non-lethal use of force by police against black people. So that's just like a strong argument for that. And then I said the same thing after the section where I was talking about police shootings. I said there is demonstrable racism in police use of force, but it's more nuanced than Vaush presents. And now you could say I didn't make that clear enough because I kind of mentioned it in passing, and that's fine. I did mention it in passing. It makes perfect sense that someone could watch the video and not catch that, but I did say it.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so just to confirm, but you agree that the police use of there's a discrepancy of police use of force against black people, and that's the issue we need to tackle, rather than specifically fatal police shootings.
There's definitely I haven't done enough research to make definitive statements here.
Okay,
There is absolutely good evidence to suggest that there is a potential racial problem with non-lethal use of police force. Like that's just like a fucking fact. There is evidence of that. I think that evidence is probably credible, but it's hard for me to make a definitive statement because I haven't done enough research on exactly the specific issue. So when I was looking up studies, I was specifically looking for studies of police shootings. Um, but yeah, it seems like a fucking problem. We should fucking do something about that. Yeah.
okay, no, fair enough. Because yeah, I think when you said about the police shooting thing, I think I can understand why people maybe came away with the perception that you were just like, yeah, black people have got it fine in America, you know, particularly if someone isn't coming into it in the absolute best faith.
No,
But yeah,
I missocked him for the record. I don't think everything's fine.
okay, cool. Well, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest with you, that kind of sums up the things I picked out that I really wanted to talk about with you. Was there anything you wanted to bring up or anything you wanted to say further?
Sure. So I kind of wanted to respond to the conversation with Sunday yesterday, and just the general discourse that I've had.
Sure, go
Um,
on.
so there are a couple of things that I said that people. Okay, so first of all, I'm just gonna take a mea culpa. I did not look good in that conversation with Sunday. To give you guys some context, I've never had a debate before, not just an online debate, a debate period, and I didn't know it was going to be a debate, right? So, and the things that I said that people take issue with, this it's almost 2 hours into the debate. So just try and be a little bit understanding. I didn't know what I was getting into, and I'm not good at this, right? I'm good at doing research. I'm good at putting together documents. I'm obviously not very good at debating, right? So I'm not going to come across very well. I understand that. Um, a couple of things that I said that people took issue with. So one of them was that I said that I left mistakes, something like I left mistakes or I left holes or something in the video. So I'm going to give you an example of one of them so that you understand what I mean. Um, in the morality section, Eh, and just to be clear, the things that I left in the video, they don't affect my core arguments at all. They're like irrelevant. They're like complete fucking nitpicks if someone were to point them out. But I'm going to point one out now that I knew was in there, right? And that no one is caught because it's so fucking irrelevant. I mean, like you would have to be a complete fucking philosophy nerd to catch this, right? So when I was critiquing Vaush for taking the position of metanormative nihilism, afterwards, I said, and you, viewer, are free to choose whatever normative position you wish, but I recommend you don't pick one like this that makes you look like a fucking lunatic. Okay, metanormative nihilism is not a normative position. It's a combination of a meta-ethical position and a meta-epistemological position. And I knew that. It's just a mistake when I was recording audio, and I didn't notice it until the whole sequence had been edited. And I didn't fix it because who gives a fuck? Like no one's. I didn't think anyone would notice, and no one did notice. It's completely irrelevant to the point at hand. Um, the line that I wrote, you know, you're free to choose whatever normative position you wish. That line is in there because it used to be rearranged. I used to talk about consequentialism second and metanormative nihilism first. So it would have been in reference to the consequentialism, which is a normative position. So like that's a mistake that I left in. It's completely irrelevant. No one noticed it. I don't think I wonder if a perspective philosophy noticed it because perspective philosophy specifically I think is interested in meta ethics. And if anyone's going to notice it, he would notice it. If he didn't notice it, fucking no one would notice it, right? It's an irrelevant, stupid, small thing. Now, what people took this to mean was like, oh, well, I realized that I said things that were like completely wrong, and I just like didn't bother. No, like it. Okay, I was trying to be honest and straightforward with the fact that I know that this isn't something that if you know the full force of the internet goes at it, that they aren't going to be able to find something to complain about, right? I'm just trying to be honest and straightforward. And so like you know that I paid Booksmarts to review the script,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, of course,
So
yeah.
so yeah, one of the things that I found a bit frustrating, even though he's obviously correct, is that I had a lot of things like this in the script where I was just trying to be honest and trying to explain limitations of certain things and trying to explain um, proper ways to interpret, trying to give context to things, um, trying to explain where my knowledge was limited or whatever, and just all these statements look incredibly bad because I made that statement. Like I said, there were things I left in, and people are immediately thinking, "Wait, so you're telling me that there's like complete fucking lies in this?" And he knew there were lies and he left them in. No, that's not what I meant. But people will assume this shit. That's the immediate assumption that everyone seemed to have in chat when I said that, and it didn't even fucking occur to me that that would be the case. So that's why Booksmarts told me to take that shit out. And this is me just trying to be good faith. Like in a normal conversation in real life, you know, if two academics are talking or whatever, they're not going to be super fucking bullhard on their claims. They're going to be like, yeah, so I do a reasonable job of you know making this point, but there's these limitations, right? And I might have fucked this up, right? It's just how people talk when they're being honest about shit. That's all I was trying to do. I'm not saying that like there's fucking lies in the script that I left in intentionally. Obviously not. If there were, they would have been found out by now.
Sure. I think with that, it's the difficulty is you've got to be so precise in what you say, and clearly that was a very fractious conversation, which
I
you know.
Yeah, I'm not good at debates.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, like I say, despite some maybe disagreements about some of this, hopefully before you've had the chance to come on and maybe clear a few things up. Because whilst I think that picking apart and being critical of your essay is perfectly fine, I do think some people have taken it a bit far. Like I've seen people calling you a 4chan op, and I'm just like, yeah, I just don't think that's
Yeah,
legitimate.
like there are like 4 paragraph responses with links to studies and shit in the replies, and it's like if I took all of your claims at face value and accepted all of them, it wouldn't affect the core argument at all. It's like what are you talking about? Why are you so fixated on the like it's like we could go and like literally Google nitpicking. Like this is just like complete fucking nitpicking. It's like if you have a criticism of the video, good criticism should be something that like substantively affects something that I'm claiming. Like let's say that in the misinformation section, I don't know how many examples I give. Let's say I give 20 examples. If you could completely disprove 2 examples, that argument is still bulletproof, but you would have disproven 2 examples. But people won't do things where they disprove 2 examples. They'll do something where they're like, well, you made a claim at 90% confidence, but actually you should have made a claim at 85%. Or like, just the most fucking nitpicky bullshit. And it's just like, oh my God, dude. What the fuck?
Okay, so I just want to kind of address this because it's been brought up in chat. I think you might have responded to this on the Destiny subreddit. I think I found the lie in the doomerpolitics
The,
video.
the end of
About
the
the
equivocation section? The Nazi
yes,
claims?
the Nazi claims.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, I was
Oh
gonna
yeah.
bring that up. Okay.
Bring that up, and then anything else you want to bring up, and then we'll wind it down. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I also want to talk about the other thing, but
Sure.
okay. So people said that I was lying in the end of the equivocation section. I was not lying. So part of it is that people were misunderstanding me. So I said either that Vaush accused people of being Nazis, or they made the accusation so strongly, or like they made claims so strong that the accusation was unmistakable without actually calling someone a Nazi. So like, let me go pull up my post so I don't fuck this up because people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're spreading misinformation." Oh, you said Vaush spreading misinformation, but yeah, like this is fucking dumbass shit. So I'll just go get my post and say exactly what I was saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
okay. So
course.
like in the Peterson section, Vaush accuses Peterson of spreading the JQ, of being far right and spreading neo-Nazi conspiracy theories. Okay, he doesn't call him a Nazi specifically, but anybody who thinks that Vaush wouldn't call someone who spreads the JQ is far right and spreads neo-Nazi conspiracy theories, if you don't think Vaush would think that person's a Nazi, you're fucking bad faith, dog. You're fucking bad faith as fuck. Like, come the fuck on, right? And I think one of these I actually did fuck up the timestamp, but I posted stuff here like oh shit, I accidentally clicked on a video. I have all of the examples, all the like someone especially questioned the Shapiro section. So I'm just going to read out the Shapiro examples, right? So Ben Shapiro jerks off at the thought of innocent black people being murdered. Ben Shapiro is a fascist and a white nationalist. Ben Shapiro spreads Nazi talking points. Ben Shapiro isn't a Nazi, but the only categorical difference between Ben Shapiro's beliefs in Nazism or anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, Ben Shapiro is a man whose entire life is pushing out euphemisms for Nazism and fascism. And if you are actually interested in stopping neo-Nazism, which Ben here most certainly is not, like if you don't take that as him calling him a Nazi without directly calling him a Nazi, I don't know what to tell you. And I didn't say in the video that he explicitly called all these people Nazis. I said he made accusations that are unmistakably accusations of being a Nazi. If I tell you there's the only difference between your beliefs and neo-Nazi beliefs are anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and see all this fucking shit, you're obviously gonna think I'm calling you a Nazi, dog. And Vaush doesn't make a meaningful distinction between these terms from what I can tell. It's not like he has some special way that he talks about the alt-right that's different from white supremacists, that's different from Nazis. As far as I can tell, he uses these terms basically interchangeably, right? I just I
I mean,
having
the problem is, I agree that Vaush paints far too broad a brush with these terms, and the thing that I find a bit frustrating with it is, particularly when I first started watching him, he was like the anti-SJW in terms of he was the alternative to the SJW, right? All these screeching SJWs calling everyone a Nazi, he was coming along to do it differently, but he seems to fall into his trap where he just paints such a broad brush and calling people Nazis and fascists, which is
yeah.
like
I
one
mean,
of the foundational
it's
critiques.
just ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and again, so in some cases, there were so many claims that I just stopped even writing them down. Like the Ben Shapiro getting called a fascist shit, I just stopped writing it down at some point. There's just so many examples of him like calling Ben Shapiro a fascist or a Nazi. So like, I think in one case I fucked up a timestamp. I'll go back and fix that. I've been preparing for this thing I'm going to say in a second, all night, so I haven't had time to go back and fix it. But it's like, yeah, I think I fucked up a timestamp. All these claims are completely accurate. None of this is bullshit at all. And people are just taking me out of context because I didn't say there was a discrete claim of being a Nazi. I said that Vaush said things that clearly imply that Vaush would call this person a Nazi, right? And to me, this is very clear. If someone wants to disagree with that, I guess that's okay. But this is I mean, okay, so I watched, I did the whole Googling myself thing. I've been watching the people doing the coverage of the script or of the video. Like every single person who gets to the equivocation section, they're just like, yeah, Vaush calls people Nazis way too fucking much. Like this is not a contentious claim, right? This is one of
Yeah,
the easy fucking layups that like everybody knows he does this. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I see some people that are from like Vosh's community in chat, like the dude called George Bush a fascist. Like, I'm sorry, but I just don't think that that is a meaningful accusation. Like, that's there's other examples you can pull from, but yeah, I think this is just common knowledge of the community that this is something Vosh does. Like, I don't know.
And this is something that I suspect. I'm not entirely sure that his community would like shit like calling George Bush a fascist. Like, I don't know, man. You have to be pretty fucking in the weeds to like think that's a legit claim. That's like again in the prime case fascism shit show. Viv was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, Viv is pretty far in the direction of Vaush, right? They're pretty close ideologically, and even she's like, "Dude, what the fuck?" Like, I don't even think that claim helps the people that he most appeals to personally.
Okay, yeah, and well, that's that covered then. What was the other thing you wanted to talk about? Or anything else you wanted to discuss before we end the call?
Yeah, so I would love to discuss President Sunday, who I have a very negative opinion about, but I'm going to try and not say negative things. President Sunday was profoundly fucking bad faith to me. And I don't remember exactly when we scheduled this, but we scheduled this and then I stayed up literally all night getting receipts to explain why this person is such a dick. So I'm going to say, taking a mea culpa. I look like shit in that conversation. I'm not going to dodge that. Obviously, I didn't do a good job. I don't know how to fucking debate, but this guy is a fucking weasel. Okay. And here are a lot of very good examples. I sent Chud Logic a Word document with the evidence for all this. Obviously, it's going to be really awkward if I'm like saying timestamps, but know that Chud has a Word file with all the timestamps and the links. Okay. So you can take my word for it. These things happened, or at the very least, they can be fact checked. If I'm full of shit, you can call me on it. Okay. So,
okay. What I'm going to do, because I appreciate you don't want to speak to President Sunday, and I don't want to start.
I'm absolutely not speaking to that guy.
That's fine.
Absolutely not. He fucking doxes people. You said you were like knew about that. I don't want this fucking
listen,
guy's like.
Wait, stop. Okay, listen, please,
people.
listen. I don't want to get into that, okay? I'm not here to... Because at the end of the day, if President Sunday comes to chat and you're talking about him, it's a bit unfair for you to just be hammering him like this. If you want to make whatever in your own content, that's fine. I will post the link in chat of these timestamps, and then people can, make their own mind up from there. So, yeah, I don't really want to get into that. Sorry.
Can I just make a couple of quick points?
Make a couple of quick points, but just make sure they're very... don't get too abrasive.
One of his main criticisms against me was that like Vaush was going to be able to use this shit as a straw man, and he's like arguing incessantly about the Sam Harris section. Vaush just fucking owned the Sam Harris section. Okay, he can't use it as a straw man. It's an incredibly good argument. The things he was saying were ridiculous, and Vaush fucking copied them. Okay, it's a stupid fucking criticism. Second, he's excoriating me for calling Vaush evil. On President Sunday's channel, he has a video called Why Vaush Failed Part 2 Evil Doesn't Pay, where he calls fucking Vaush evil. Again, there's a bunch of timestamps here where he's like, how would this guy call him evil? You fucking called him evil, motherfucker. How the fuck are you going to chew me out for that? You made the same goddamn video. How the fuck are you calling me out for that? Okay. Here's a great one. When he's talking to Booksmarts says, what do you think of the police or of the stochastic terrorism bit? And he says, I think it lacks context. I haven't actually gone over it. So he criticized it and then admitted he hadn't seen it. What the fuck?
Okay.
I mean, like, I have a bunch of stuff here, but this guy has been very fucking bad faith. Again, this document is, how long is this? 8 pages.
Okay.
You guys should not trust this guy.
Right. Well, listen,
I've got streams making hate videos. Dude, fuck this guy.
I've got my own critiques of President Sunday that I'll take to him. I just, my concern is appreciate you've got these critiques. I've put the link in chat. You've made a few points there. If people want to kind of go further with it, fair enough. They can listen to the original discussion. I don't want to be behind the doxing thing. I don't know anything about that. I'm not really willing.
I thought you said you were just aware of that.
No, I didn't say that at all. No, I did say I was aware of that.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm not validating that. What I'd say, if President says listen to this, by all means, come on and speak to me, and I'll discuss with you some of these critiques, I guess. But yeah, other than that, appreciate you don't like President Sunday. You've got some critiques that you've made that's in the document. People can go and look at that if they wish, and I'll speak to President Sunday myself if he so wishes.
Yeah, and I didn't write this thinking that like people would be reading it without me explaining it. So if anyone wants me to explain something in here, hit me up or whatever, and I'll explain it.
Okay, right. Was there anything else?
No, that's it. I just want to answer your questions, and I wanted to clear up that Sunday stuff because man, that was real frustrating. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No. It's my pleasure. You know, I hope you appreciate. Like, you know, I appreciate you've got a lot of frustration about President Sunday, but particularly you don't want to speak to him. It's difficult for me to justify you coming on and saying all this stuff about him. You know,
I mean, like I said, I'm happy to have him come on later. It's just like I don't want to talk to someone who's been like, this mean and like doxing people. I don't know. Sure, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine.
I get it. Yes.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so thanks for coming on. Any final points? So, what are your? I mean, what actually I wanted to ask? What are your plans going forward with like the content, if anything?
I don't know. I mean, I have ideas for videos. I'm not, even with all the success, I'm not really, like I said, I'm like 70-30 not making videos right now. A lot of this process has been pretty stressful. I'm not really, I don't know. I mean, you kind of got to sit on it and see how it goes and see how you feel about it. But it's pretty stressful. It's a pretty stressful thing to deal with all these people like tweeting you with all this shit. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I do have a bunch of ideas for videos. So if I decided to make content, I certainly could. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, no worries. Well, listen, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate you fleshing some stuff out, and I think we've had quite an interesting conversation. Wasn't that blood sportsy, which is always nice. Yeah, and
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure, and all the best. And yeah, maybe we'll speak again in the future. Who knows?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.